Hey, I'm Midnight, I do free Deadlock coaching, and let's talk about the latest patch. First off, the biggest changes to soul orbs. Well, now they will no longer be split between 2 players before 8 minutes. And now they will work like they always used to after 8 minutes, where between 2 heroes, they will be split 60% to 60%. Yes, you'll get an extra 20%. And then I believe with 3 players, it's 30, 30, 30, and progressively diminishing returns. And I was slightly wrong about this. Yes, you get 20% extra souls in total for 2 people getting in lane, but it's not diminishing returns after it's just equally split. The 100% is equally split between 3, 4, 5 players, depending on how many you have in the lane. I believe this is to encourage roaming, and then if one player wants to jungle while the other player catches the wave, or if there's just a circumstance where only one player can be at the wave so the other player can roam, farm, whatever, it'll be a lot less punishing. However, if you can save the wave for your teammate, it still is better, and you shouldn't just farm it because they died, because you still will get an extra 20% just for having that teammate nearby. They lowered both the range of Guardians' attacks and their melee range. You can no longer parry troopers. This is only really useful for freezing for your teammate to come back to lane. Next, there's a lot of urn changes. Urn now reveals you immediately, and now, like previously, the first urn is considered for the comeback mechanic being when the urn is on your side. Previously, when this was in the game, it was at the urn would be on your side if there was an 8% soul difference. Now it is 15. When it was 8%, this was a god-awful mechanic that everyone in the game hated. So we will see how it feels with 15%. But from previous experiences and what my gut is telling me, this is going to be annoying and probably going to cause some issues. Obviously, a MOBA needs a general comeback mechanic, but generally comeback mechanics punish enemies' mistakes. Well, this just kind of punishes you for winning laning stage, because it's not like if you're the winning team, you can go pick up urn and like kill it, because now you can't even just stand near it to stop it from walking. After 20 seconds, it'll just ignore loiterers and start walking back. You have to pick it up again every 20 seconds, which means either you have to dedicate a player to doing this, or you're going to be actively punished for being ahead. Again, I fully support comeback mechanics. I think urn feels very good in the late game. It's just in the early game, and especially with this new change, the comeback mechanic just feels very punishing to the winning team, and not the winning team has to make a mistake for the comeback mechanic to be utilized correctly. They also fixed debuff reducer, affecting the urn pickup time. There's a small thing, but this will also affect Viscous being able to like pick up urn and ult himself. I believe he can still do it, it's just significantly more difficult. They also neutered heavy melee canceling. You now get significantly less momentum from doing it. Okay, onto the items. We're starting off with a hollow point nerf. Generally, it seems like Valve is trying to kill teams getting a lot of momentum because this patch has been pretty sweepy, especially in the lower elos. And obviously, if you're ahead and the majority of the time you're healthy, being able to pick up hollow point ward just lets you push that lead even further. Healing Right's also gotten a slight nerf. It's nothing too significant. Obviously, Healing Right is always going to be a very strong item, but it is something to note. A little less heal on kill from Healbane to make it a little less you want to buy it early, and maybe a little more, later, buy it more for the anti-heal than just for that significant amount of health in the early game that you would restore. Also, both barriers have been nerfs. I think this is a good change because in general, barriers have been very, very strong in the early game, and it feels like the enemy is going double barrier, that you just cannot kill them anymore in the laning stage. I do think barriers need some kind of rework rather than just a nerf. Again, this is a good short-term change, but I would like to see a whole barrier rework because they just don't, they're useless in the late game, and now they're going to be less useful in the early game. They just don't really have a spot. I do still think Enchanter's Barrier will be bought and will still be good. It's just going to be, worse, which again is good, but I would like to see a rework in future. Also, Divine Barrier got a longer cooldown, which thank God. That item is, I don't know how you balance this item, honestly. Restorative Locket nerf as well, which is always good to see. The item has been pretty dominant recently, and just, especially when we're seeing characters like Calico be relatively meta, having the melee resist is very nice. Also, debuff reducer nerf, which I like the health reduction nerf because debuff reducer is a very needed item, but the reduction on the actual effectiveness it has against debuffs I think is bad, because the reason debuff reducer is so meta right now is because there's so much CC in the game right now. There's so much strong perma CC that it feels like you have to buy debuff reducer for, especially with 7 meta. He's always putting his stuns on you, knockdowns, warding cages, and furnace burns, whatever. I think the symptom of debuff reducer being such a strong item isn't because debuff reducer is particularly really strong and needs to be nerfed. I think it's more the general CC in the game needs to be brought down, because 80% of characters on the roster have at least some kind of CC, which is pretty crazy. That's not including slows. Of course, we saw a fortitude nerf. This has been very, very dominant in the meta. We're seeing 4% less weapon damage on it and also 3 seconds longer to heal. Still think it'll be pretty good. Maybe you push a couple items back in the build. But the weapon damage was nice, but also there were a lot of non-gun characters still building it. And 3 seconds, although is a good nerf, is not going to cripple it. Still think it'll be a very good item. You also see general decay nerfs. It's been pretty strong and doing a lot. Also, knockdown now just immediately drops you to the ground. No momentum, none of that. So if you don't have debuff remover, you're just kind of screwed, which again is why people need to buy debuff remover so much. I don't think the nerfs to debuff reducer are really going to affect its pick rate because it's just the only item you can really pick up for that. Now with the big change, E-Shift got moved to a tier 4 item. It can now be cancelled early like it used to be able to. The duration is increased. Now, I don't think this will kill E-Shift. This is obviously a giant nerf, but E-Shift is relatively irreplaceable. Especially, I mean, this is E-Shift being moved to a tier 4 is going to bring Lash into fruition, which they did preemptively nerf him, but my guess is that it's not going to be strong enough because his ult is just, I mean, with that E-Shift being tier 4, it's going to be difficult to build for it, and it's just going to put in work. However, I do think bumping E-Shift to a tier 4 was a good change. It has been really strong and like pretty much a must-buy generally. But it was also keeping, you know, stuff like a Lash meta in check, which means this next patch might be a little turbulent. Onto the hero changes, we of course have the normal fuck you to bebop. I don't know. I mean, I do think he needs less spirit resist, but I feel like right now his biggest issue is just how much damage his gun does. If you can hit headshots and you can track on the bebop uppercut, his gun just annihilates you. And I feel like that's the issue they really need to address, which I can make a whole nother video on how I feel like guns kind of do too much damage at their base. And how Burst Fire and Lucky Shot need to be gutted, but that's off topic. Let's go to another gun nerf, which is Calico. Obviously, Gun Calico has been like, makes me want to strangle myself every time I play against it, so we'd love to see the nerf. Base ammo reduced by 3 and 25% less growth. That's great to see. You know, any Calico nerf makes me happy, and I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that. Next, we have the Grey Talon nerfs, which obviously has been a bit of a problem, so it's good to see the nerfs. They nerfed his HP regen, his movement speed scaling. They nerfed his early game by reducing his charge shot damage by a tiny bit and reducing his charge shot scaling before you get it maxed. It scales by 0.4 or less in the early game, but then once you get it maxed and you get it at tier 3, you get that 0.4% back. So generally just his early game shouldn't feel as, wow, he just one-shot me at full HP, my bad, I was on your screen. Now we're on to Haze with some changes I really dislike. They made it so her Sleep Knife tier 2 now reduces stamina regeneration by 60%, which I think is just a nuisance. I don't like when they reduce stamina regen. It's, again, just it's just annoying. They increased the fire rate on our ult, and they made the ult have a lower cooldown when it has some points in it. The reason I don't like this is because the reason Haze isn't meta right now, it isn't strong in high elo while she is pretty decent in low elo, is because of metal skin. The changes in making your ult have a shorter cooldown and a stronger fire rate do not affect at all that in high elo people just buy metal skin, they click metal skin, she just tickles you, you kill her, she's an absolute joke. However, in low elo, where she is really hurting the game, because people don't know how to buy metal skin and don't buy metal skin enough, this is just going to make her even more of a powerhouse and even more annoying. I think this is a really bad change by Valve. I really like the direction when they tried to make her hybrid to try to get her around metal skin, but just trying to brute force her into the metal like this is not, I mean, it's just going to make her destroy like a low elo and do still, again, be useless and high. We got some good holiday nerfs. She'll just do less gun damage, and now when she goes off her bounce pad, it will extend her lasso duration by a little less time, which is great because that's been feeling way too long. Kelvin basically got an early game nerf. His base spirit resist is now 0 from 15%. We'll get 1 spirit resist per boon, which boons are these things. Kelvin gets a total of 13, so in the late game he'll now have plus 13 spirit resist, not plus 15, so it's a minor nerf, but mostly to his early game. And then his frozen shelter is going to take 10 seconds longer until it gets a couple levels into it. So the biggest change is just his minus 15% spirit resist in the laning stage. Like I mentioned before, we have the preemptive Lash nerfs. I mean, from 0.6 to 0.7 on lock-on time with his ult, I don't think, I mean, with E-Shift being a tier 4 now, I don't think this is going to keep him from just running the server. I don't think he'll touch 7. There were some 7 nerfs, which we'll touch on later, but I don't think they're big enough. Also, sorry, my voice feels like it's tweaking today, but they are good nerfs. I just don't think they'll be. I mean, 25 damage off will make him, you know, weaker in the early game, which is great. His ground checks have felt like they just kind of do half your HP no matter who you are, but I don't think so. Keep him in check. We got a McGinnis buff because Valve hates all of his players. We have a Mirage nerf. They reduced his base health, they reduced his mark slowing by 20%, and they made it so his scarabs now only take off 8% bullet resist and not 10. This nerf mostly targets his early game, and I think less bullet resist reduction is good, but I don't think this is going to knock him out of the meta. And in general, I mean, Mirage is always going to be strong just because a cross-map TP in a MOBA is never not going to be good. We got a pretty good Krill nerf. They made it so now if you rush the Burrow tier 2, it'll only give you 100 extra damage and not 140. Lead it up at spirit scaling, which I think is a good choice because in the late game, Burrow still hits hard, but it's a lot easier to dodge, while in laning stage, it feels like it just massacres you if he's doing a Burrow build. And they did the same thing to his ult combo, which they reduced the DPS by 20 from 60 to 40, but they made it spirit scaling higher, which I think is a good change. And although I do think combo's damage is an issue, I think the really big issue of combo, and also I think this will make it do more DPS in the late game, which, oh god. But I think the really big issue with combo is its cooldown. I think what we need to see is plus 20 seconds to combo, cooldown flat. After like 24 minutes, I don't remember the exact number, but after 24 minutes, his combo cooldown is shorter than a respawn timer, which is just so... I mean, that needs to go. That needs to have a major change. Got a pretty big pocket nerf. I mean, reducing his base bullet damage by 0.6 on a shotgun character, that is very significant for his early game. If Pocket could aim, his shotgun did feel like it was doing a lot of damage in the early game, so I do like this. I think shotgun characters just inherently have such an advantage in laning stage because of the solar mechanic that comes off minions. But obviously, that's not something you can really nerf with like damages or like damage changes, so I don't know how they're going to balance that. They did increase the bullet growth though, and the scaling. Just make him do a little less damage in laning stage, but scale a little better. They also reduce his base satchel damage. They give it back to him when he gets his satchel tier 2, which I do think is a good change because his the Enchanter's satchel plus like a couple bullets combo, I did feel like it was doing a lot, and I'm glad to see that scale a little better. Next, the 7 changes. They made it so his ult, lightning bolts, now does 100 damage instead of 150, which is a good change. It was doing too much in the early game. I can't stop him there. They also gave it a slightly bigger radius, which like, why? It's instant. It's already instant. It's a 6-meter AoE. You could make that a 2-meter AoE, and the 7 isn't going to miss it because, again, it's instant. Why even change that? That just feels like annoying and like a weird someone on Valve main 7 type of thing. Although this is a good change again. I mean, it will make it so his like ult combo one shot. I mean, 50 less damage is something in the early game, if not that much. And also, I kind of feel like the whole lightning strike needs a rework, and maybe 7's ult in its entirety needs a rework. But this is not. I mean, this is not going to knock 5% off his win rate. Again, it'll hurt his early game slightly, but he has a 55% win rate in both high elo and general elo right now. So like. However, I do think that this implies that either some major map rework is coming or some 7 rework is coming because he slipped past 2 patches on a 55% win rate without anything changing. Well, I mean, some slight, like, fucking, piss in your face nerfs. I do think that it boasts that some kind of 7 rework or map rework is coming. Probably a 7 rework, so we hope for that and we cross our fingers. But it does kind of suck having to wait. We pray for the anniversary change, which... If you don't know, Deadlock's anniversary is around the 26th. I can't find anyone who knows the exact date of when it released into pre-alpha, but it was around the 26th. Pretty big Sinclair nerf, as you can see here. They reduced his base bullet damage. They made us now his hex damage amp is now reduced and it scales worse, which I think Rabbit Hex again needs a rework, having AoE CC in a MOBA, especially a MOBA with Echo Shard. Like an AoE polymorph is just so that I don't know if that can ever be inherently balanced. Look at like Lulu in League of Legends, who has like a 1-person polymorph with no Echo Shard, none of that, no damage amp, and she is atrociously strong, always, every meta, because polymorphs are just so insanely good in MOBAs. The damage amp nerf is good, Rabbit gets a little more move speed, Hex no longer does damage too, and they also nerfed his bolt. I mean, I think these changes are good, but I will be very, very impressed if Valve manages to find a way to balance an AoE polymorph. I'll just put it that way. I'd be very, very impressed, and it'd be a very impressive feat. But I don't have the biggest faith to be transparent. And next we got a Vindicta nerf, which just gives our crow a little higher cooldown, and then it's tier 3, it won't shred resist as much, which I think is a good change. I don't think Vindicta by any means has been strong, but resist shredding is always annoying and good. Especially because another minor point, Loki think resist reduction should be a percentage based of their current resist and not just a flat amount, because that would actually make it like a counter buy thing. Like if you had to look, oh, my enemies are really tanky and building a lot of armor, so I should buy Crippling Headshot this game because it reduces, I don't know, their current armors by 50%. That would be great. Also, it'd punish people for resist stacking, which would be good. They already are punished because its resists are multiplicative and not additive, but it'd punish even more, which would be good. And then it would also make items and abilities more like countery. Like, hey, maybe you have to choose who to Vindicta Crow in the fight. You have to try to Vindicta Crow the tank. I just think that'd be good. Also, just because like Crippling Headshot is giving you an extra 24% damage on everyone, no matter what, no matter anything, is crazy. Next, we got a Warden buff. It's mostly for the early game. He'll have a little extra HP by 25, and then his regen will be a little higher. But anyway, that's it for the patch notes. I hope you enjoyed. Try to get this out quick. I was eating when they dropped, so I had to finish that. But I tried to make this high quality, but also get it out with some speed. Hope you enjoyed, and as always, keep it... Oh my god, the hiccups. And as always, keep it real.